Welcome to MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic. In this video, we are going to review 10 of the most impactful new cards from the Forces of the Imperium pre-constructed commander deck from Warhammer 40K. We will also discuss some possible upgrades to the original deck list, as well as highlight the deck's most valuable reprint. Forces of the Imperium is an Esper deck with a go-wide token strategy. The front-facing commander of this build, Inquisitor Greyfax, is a 3/3 human Inquisitor with Vigilance for 1 in Esper colors, and gives other creatures we control +1/+0 and Vigilance. We can pay 1 generic mana, tap Inquisitor Greyfax to tap target creature an opponent controls, and then we investigate. The flavor is real, as Inquisitor Greyfax creates a clue token when his ability is activated. The secondary commander option, Marneus Calgar, is a 3/5 Astartes warrior with double strike for 2 in Esper colors. Whenever 1 or more tokens enter the battlefield under our control, we draw a card. We can pay 6 generic mana and create 2/2/2 white Astartes warrior creature tokens with Vigilance. These generals have their strengths, but between the two, I prefer Marneus Calgar. Its card draw is immediate, unlike the clue token created through Inquisitor Greyfax's investigation ability, which, outside of any peripheral untapped spells or effects, can only be activated once during a round of turns. Marneus's ability can trigger during each player's turn under the right circumstances. As an additional bonus, its built-in creature token ability ensures that Marneus can trigger itself, and the 3/5 double-striking body is a force to be reckoned with on the battlefield, both as an attacker and a blocker. The most valuable reprint in Forces of the Imperium is Talisman of Progress. Originally printed in Mirrodin, this is the first reprint of Talisman of Progress in its nearly 20 years of existence. The following list of cards, ranked in no particular order, jump right off of the screen as very impactful additions to the Commander format, particularly for their versatility of being played in a variety of different decks. Thunderhawk Gunship is a 6/6 artifact vehicle with flying and a crew cost of 2 for 6 generic mana. When it enters the battlefield, we create 2/2/2 Astartes warrior creature tokens with Vigilance. Whenever Thunderhawk Gunship attacks, attacking creatures we control gain flying until end of turn. Any vehicle that can provide its own crew members upon hitting the battlefield is very valuable, and Thunderhawk Gunship is no exception. Its attack trigger is powerful in both go-wide and go-tall strategies. Since this is an artifact, it can be included in any commander deck that cares about combat. Its temporary mass flying enablement could be seen as a win condition in decks held by Jetmir, Nexus of Revels, Adrix and Nev, Twin Casters, and Chatterfang, Squirrel General. Redemptor Dreadnought is a 4/4 artifact creature with trample for 5 generic mana. As an additional cost to cast the spell, we may exile a creature card from our graveyard. Whenever Redemptor Dreadnought attacks, if a card has been exiled with it, it gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the power of the exiled card. This creature's trample makes it impactful, particularly in builds where various biggins are buried in the graveyard. In these instances, it is reasonable to exile one of our fallen stompers when casting Redemptor Dreadnought for the purposes of receiving a sizable power and toughness boost until the end of turn. Since this is an artifact, it can be included in any commander deck, and is a powerful addition to any Xenagos God of Revels build. Reaver Titan is a 10/10 artifact vehicle with a crew cost of 4 for 7 generic mana. It has protection from mana value 3 or less, which means chump blocking it with tokens and most mana dorks is not possible. and most economical spot removal spells can't be used to target it. Whenever Reaver Titan attacks, it deals 5 damage to each opponent. The biggest hoop to jump through with Reaver Titan is its crew cost. But look at the power of this vehicle. It's a 10/10 that can't be chump blocked and has protection from the majority of spot removal spells, and it deals 5 damage to each opponent just as an attack trigger. Notice that this card is not legendary, making it a very tempting target for clone and other clone-like spells and effects. Imagine attacking with Reaver Titan and tripling its direct damage with Fiery Emancipation. If a deck has creatures or peripheral spells and effects that can crew vehicles, then Reaver Titan is a very powerful addition and could be viewed as a win condition. Knight Paladin is a 6/6 artifact vehicle with trample and a crew cost of 1 for 5 generic mana. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 4 damage to each opponent. So much of what was discussed with Reaver Titan applies to Knight Paladin, except it has a much more manageable crew cost. A creature land like Mutavault easily could crew Knight Paladin, enabling the 6/6 Trampler to attack or block. Its enter the battlefield trigger should not be overlooked, as it deals damage equal to 10% of each opponent's starting life total. Knight Paladin also is not legendary, making it a very tempting target for clone or other clone-like spells and effects. Didn't we say this already? Sister of Silence is a 3/3 human knight with flash for 4 and 1 blue mana. When she enters the battlefield, counter target instant spell, sorcery spell, activated ability, or triggered ability. This is another in a line of counterspelling creatures with flash like Mystic Snake, Frilled Mystic, and Overcharged Amalgam. However, the only spells that Sister of Silence can counter are instant or sorcery spells, and it comes with a 25% increase in mana value over the aforementioned options. These potential drawbacks aside, note that this spell is mono blue, which provides greater flexibility in deck selection and allows Sister of Silence to become impactful in any decks with blue in its color identity. Vesperus Prater is a 3/4 Custody's warrior with flash and vigilance for 3 and 1 white mana, and gives commanders we control protection from everything. This creature provides instant speed, progenitus level protection to our commanders, fizzling away spot removal, theft, direct damage, and a host of other opponent shenanigans, including our opponents attacking our Planeswalker commander. Vesperus Prater is an option to consider for any EDH deck with white in its color identity. Caledus Assassin is a 3/3 human shapeshifter assassin with flash for 4 in Dimir colors. We may have it enter the battlefield tapped as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it has, when this creature enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 other target creature with the same name as this creature. It's all about the text with Caledus Assassin, because a 3/3 with flash for 6 mana is not a good return. However, when paired with its text, it becomes one of the most impactful cards from the Warhammer 40K preconstructed commander decks. There are offensive and defensive factors in play with this creature. Note that the text says, destroy up to 1 other target creature with the same name as this creature, meaning that we can choose to destroy 0 creatures, either through politicking at the EDH table or copying one of our own creatures. Or we can copy an opponent's creature and then destroy the original. Caledus Assassin's versatility definitely shines through, and it is a powerful option for any decks with blue and black in their color identities. Birth of the Imperium is a saga for 2 and Esper colors. When the first lore counter is placed on it, we create a 2/2 white Astartes warrior creature token with vigilance for each opponent we have. When the second lore counter is placed on it, each opponent sacrifices a creature. When the third and final lore counter is placed onto Birth of the Imperium, we draw 2 cards for each opponent who controls fewer creatures than we do. In a 4-player game, if each chapter yields maximum benefits, then the ceiling of this card is 3 2/2 creatures with vigilance, 3 sacrificed creatures by our opponents, and 6 cards drawn. in colors that specialize in creature removal. In this scenario, we are +9 in total value of permanents put onto the battlefield and cards drawn, while each opponent is a -1. Birth of the Imperium can put us so far ahead of our opponents that they may never catch up. There is so much potential value with this card that a case could be made that not playing it in any deck with Esper colors is a mistake. Defenders of Humanity is an enchantment for X2 and 1 white mana. When it enters the battlefield, we create X/2/2 white Astartes warrior creature tokens with Vigilance. We can pay X2 and 1 white mana and exile Defenders of Humanity and create X/2/2 white Astartes warrior creature tokens with Vigilance. We can activate this second ability only if we control no creatures and only during our turn. If the floor of the X cost for this spell is 3, then we create 6 power and toughness over 3 bodies for 6 total mana, and each body has Vigilance. Any amount of mana higher than 3 provides additional value. Although the restrictions on Defenders of Humanity's second ability is a bit limiting, it still provides a mid to late game mana sink for the purposes of rebuilding our battlefield after a board wipe, alongside its initial token creation upon casting it. Any token deck with white in its color identity should consider this enchantment, particularly due to its second ability. The Golden Throne is a legendary artifact for 4 generic mana. If we would lose the game, instead we exile the Golden Throne and our life total becomes 1. We can tap the Golden Throne and sacrifice a creature to add 3 mana in any combination of colors to our mana pool. The game-extending first ability calls for consideration for inclusion into any EDH deck. The creature-sacrificing and mana-producing second ability warrants consideration in any deck with creatures, especially go-wide decks featuring creature tokens, tribal builds, as well as aristocrat-themed decks. As an artifact, it's colorless and can be cast with any type of mana. At the time of this video's upload, the Golden Throne is the most valuable card from the Warhammer 40K preconstructed decks, and with good reason. It has relevant and powerful abilities that can be included in any deck in the format. Aside from the obvious inclusion of Anointed Procession, the following cards are possible upgrades to the Forces of the Imperium original deck list. These cards are focused on enhancing and optimizing the go-wide token theme of this build, and with an eye on choosing Marneus Calgar as the general. Inspiring Leader is a legendary background for 2 and 1 white mana. Commander creatures we own have creature tokens we control get +2/+2. Most Anthem effects have a mana value of 3 and provide the power and toughness boosts to all creatures we control. In this case, we can make an exception, because our creature tokens will be doing the heavy lifting in this deck. When paired with Marneus Calgar, each time we funnel 6 mana into our general's second ability, those 2/2 white Astartes warrior creature tokens with Vigilance become 4/4s. Intangible Virtue is another token-specific Anthem effect, boosting the power and toughness of our creature tokens and providing Vigilance. With so many creature tokens entering our side of the battlefield, let's take advantage of it by playing with Cathard's Crusade. Whenever a creature ETBs under our control, we put a +1/+1 counter on each creature we control. These counters remain even if Cathard's Crusade is removed from the battlefield, a benefit that our aforementioned Anthems cannot provide. Ancient Gold Dragon lends to the token theme of this build by providing an outlet to create 1/1 blue Fairy Dragon creature tokens with flying whenever it deals combat damage to an opponent. Make sure you have your lucky D20. Felice, Reverent Medium, creates X 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying at the beginning of each end step, where X is the number of tokens we created this turn. Felice doubles our token output and does so at the beginning of each end step, not just ours. Let's turn a defensive card offensive by including a copy of Ink Shield. For 3 and Orzhov colors and at instant speed, we prevent all combat damage that will be dealt to us this turn. For each 1 damage prevented this way, we create a 2/1 white and black Inkling creature token with flying. Since we are creating creature tokens left and right in this build, let's reward our efforts with some card draw in the form of Idol of Oblivion. This artifact costs 2 generic mana, and we can tap it to draw a card if we created a token this turn. Check and check. As a last resort, we can tap 8, tap Idol of Oblivion, sacrifice it, and create a 10/10 Eldrazi creature token. As removal spells go, by invitation only is perfect for token builds. For 3 and 2 white mana and at sorcery speed, we choose a number between 0 and 13. Each player sacrifices that many creatures. More often than not, we should control the largest army at the EDH table, and our losses will not be as great as our opponents. After forcing our opponents to sacrifice their creatures, which dances around indestructible and protection, our creatures can attack without the fear of blockers or after-turn crackbacks by our opponents. Evasion is our preference, which is readily observable through the number of token-producing outlets included in this section of the video. With one card, every creature token we create becomes a copy of Serra Angel. It's an enchantment for 3 and 2 white mana, and it's called Divine Visitation. Any creature token we create becomes a 4/4 white angel with flying and vigilance. As we have seen throughout this video, taking into account the prevalence of token-producing spells and effects, Divine Visitation can be considered a win condition in this build. Speaking of win conditions, there are few options more powerful than a Chromas Will, especially in token builds. If we control our general at the time of casting the spell, then our entire squad gets flying, double strike, vigilance, lifelink, indestructible, and protection from all colors until end of turn. Our creatures should be able to close out the game shortly thereafter. And that concludes our review of the Forces of the Imperium pre-constructed commander deck from Warhammer 40K. Which cards did we leave out? Which new cards are your favorite? And which cards would you suggest for the purposes of upgrading the original deck list of this build? Let me know in the comment section below. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic.